I'm so glad to have you here today on the Erica Glessing Show. We do 8 minutes of inspiration, and my next guest is super inspirational. She's going to talk about influence. Oh, I can just feel the domination energy coming up in my body. I'm so excited to have with me Heather Havenwood. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Domination. Yes.
Yeah, right? Like boss lady domination too,
yes.
Right?
Yes. Inner dominatrix. That's right.
You talk about influence, maybe just start off with, for some of the listeners who might, be kind of earlier in their careers, an author, coach, entrepreneur. How does someone even get influence? And maybe what is it?
So let's talk about a little bit for that real quickly. So we've been taught over and over again, either as coaches, authors, speakers, or quote unquote experts in your field, that you need to be an expert. You need to be an expert. We've been kind of said that over and over and over and over, bashed over your head for years. I think now the next level that is influence. What's the difference? So expert says, I am an expert at X. And influence is, I'm an influencer of an industry or a particular demographic. I'm an influencer of different things. It's really a shift.
Like a YouTuber.
Yeah, it's more of a YouTuber.
A popular YouTuber, like someone that my son follows who says, be happy every day or something. And then my son comes out of that listening to that. And he's like, he said, don't sweat the small stuff, Mom. I really believe that.
Yeah, it really is actually influence people and influence in an industry. And it's less about being an expert at being an expert on YouTube or being an expert on podcasting or being an expert on whatever. It's actually taken to the next level of that. And that's what the reason that is, Erica, if you don't mind me going down this road for a second, the reason that I think it's so hot now and it's becoming more and more hot, quote unquote, is because brands today, people don't do business with people. People do business with people, not brands. And so brands today are desperate to get in front of particular demographics, and they can't do that anymore with traditional advertising. And so they're going through people, aka influencers, and that's why it's exploding.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So what got you interested in just helping people grow their influence and grow their thing?
I've been in the information marketing industry for 20 years. I got started in the speaking industry in 2001, where, you would have a multitude of speakers on a multi-stage platform. One guy would sell really well and the other guy didn't, or girl. And then, even though the one that didn't sell well probably is better at, let's say, real estate investing, what were the differences? So I kind of learned this whole art and science of branding and marketing and how to position yourself in the marketplace. And it was all about being expert. And it was just boring. And then what I realized, there was a turn about the last 2 years when I started my podcast. And I really started focusing the last year on helping people launch their shows and things like that. And that's where I started to realize there is a shift in the marketplace.
I just wanted everyone to know that was listening that I didn't pay Heather to come and say that podcasts were a good idea. Yeah. In fact, we were doing the pre-chat and it was fascinating. And she's like, well, the first thing I say is to create a podcast. And I'm like, that's what I teach. And we both just kind of looked at each other because honestly, we didn't cook that up. We didn't sit there and strategize and say, how can we both sell better? We kind of looked at each other and went, really? You teach it? And I go, really? You help people get it bigger? And I go, really? And we both just kind of looked at each other and it was a really cool moment where we saw the synchronicity of our work in the world. So yeah, tell me why you tell people, hey, get a podcast.
Okay. So here's why this is really interesting, Erica. You may or may not know this. You're really smart and intelligent, but you might not know this because it's kind of inside information. So ClickFunnels they're in the process of what I call hiring speakers to go out to smaller venues to promote and sell ClickFunnels, because obviously Russell Brunson can't be everywhere, right? So what they're doing is they're hiring what they call pitch guys or girls. Pitch speakers is a very old model. And what I know someone who's been asked to do that. And she came back from their training and called me and said, hey, we need to talk. I need to create a podcast. And I was kind of taken back by it, oh, okay. I thought you were going to be speaking for Russell or, and she said, well, they told us in our training, we all need to start a podcast. And I was like, what? Gosh. And I was like, why is that? She goes, well, it's to help our influence right? And I thought, oh my God, are you serious? So not only is she going to be speaking on behalf of ClickFunnels, which is obviously a huge company and Russell Brunson's amazing, but they all said to their speakers, y'all all need to create your own shows. And I just thought, wow, that's really fascinating, you know? And the other thing that happened, this you probably already know about, you know, because it was news, maybe you don't. Well, Spotify just bought Gimlet, and they for $200 million, as well as Anchor, which is a software for hosting. And the same day that got announced, Pandora announced, you know, they're going to be doing their own podcasting. The beauty of that is such a beautiful thing, because I watched a 30-minute presentation by the VP of media and Pandora. See, what's happened in iTunes is that iTunes sucks. They don't do anything that Amazon and Pandora and Spotify do. For example.
So I totally get that. So this is what I hate about it, is they don't do the SEO. So Amazon, I call it like Amazon SEO. It's a specialized thing where if you like your happiness book by Erica Glessing or whatever, if you like happiness quotations, hey, you might like The Energy of Happiness by Erica Glessing. And if you like that, hey, you might like the happiness thing by Gretchen Rubin. Hey, if you like that, you might like the happiness book by Marcy Shimoff. But if you type in the name wrong, you cannot get to a podcast. Like if you go into iTunes and you try to search, and sometimes they say, listeners who like this also listen to that, but it's inconsistent. And
well, let me go into that. I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. So I wouldn't call it SEO. It's basically the algorithm of like, not like. So if you go into Pandora, you're listening to whatever you're listening to, and you don't like the song, you press the down thumb or like. That's an algorithm conversation. And so they have been perfecting that for 12, 15 years. They've been perfecting how to ask people what they like and don't like, and then serve up to them. If you like this song,
for music,
like this,
you mean?
Right? They've been perfecting that for 15 years. Yeah. Now they're saying, hey, let's take podcast content and do the same thing. So what that means is, here's what the brilliance of this. What that means is it increases our discoverability. So if they're listening to your show and they like it, they press, thumb up, and then Pandora might serve up my show and go, well, if you like Erica's show, you might like other show. But I didn't do anything. I didn't
exactly.
That.
And you know what? Google's starting to do that too, because they just created a whole podcast division, and Play is going to get a lot more podcast friendly, because they never used to Google by content of podcasts. They kind of didn't really do that for audio. It was kind of like, and then that's changing now too.
Yeah. So, I think that the fact that Spotify bought a company for $200 million and a hosting company, and Pandora is now talking about, that is a game changer. And what they're doing is they're saying, screw iTunes. iTunes is going to be not the location where people listen to podcasts anymore. They're not.
Gosh.
They're not. It's because Pandora and Spotify for years, Pandora's older than Spotify, they have been literally dealing with algorithms, right? Of giving us what we want in music. Why not do that with content? Duh.
Yeah, that's so great. I love it, Heather. It's so fun. It seems like we could talk forever. Why don't you tell us a little bit tell us like your business name, and tell us, how people can work with you. You can spend a few minutes. It's all right. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I had you here. You came on, gave us your beautiful presence. So why don't you tell us a little bit more?
Well, thank you for that. So, my main website is heatherhavenwood.com. However, I have, a chat bot that you can communicate with me directly via my messenger. And you go to askheatherann.com. Just go there. It'll open up Messenger or say hi, and then you can talk to me, because that's really me. I don't have like an assistant that asks questions. Just ask me questions or connect with me or set up a call with me. But the main website I have about this model, Influencer Growth Formula, and I just announced my kind of what I've been doing for the last 2 years. I haven't really named it. You do things and then you're like, oh my God, this is like a system. And so that's now called IDOM, kind of a mini play on the dominatrix, which means influencer domination master map empire, which basically means, how do you use podcasting to create domination influence? Okay. How do you take that? That's really—
I got it. I love it. So after they take my class on how to on podcast done with you, so you do a podcast, create your podcast, then you got to go hang out with Heather, and you got to grow your influence. But it might be better to start with her and me at the same time, because actually the more you integrate the more you like mind map, the better you're going to be able to kind of like, as you see it done, you're going to be able to grow it faster. Like you want to, it's hard, it's crazy. It seems like you always have to be integrating your new awareness, right? You have to, just to grow. So great having you, everybody. Heather Havenwood, IDOM, Ask Heather Ann, right? That's your bot site. I love that idea. That's so flippin' cool. Influencer growth formula. I hope everybody got a lot out of today. Heather, just say your domain just one more time for everybody.
Sure. AskHeatherAnn.com or HeatherHavenwood.com.
I love it. Thanks for coming.